cannot get this off. You cannot get that out.
And then this is the warranty labor time from Nissan. 4.8. They want me to do that HVAC assembly for 4.8 hours when all data is saying that it takes like 3 times as much as the warranty time, 13.5.
So apparently there is a major pay shortage going on right now with mechanics and auto technicians, and it's starting to become a serious problem.
Flat rate is dead. Let me tell you why. Flat rate comes from a day and age where cars were made to last and diagnostics led to replacing broken parts. Now we're chasing wires and shorted out modules that are shorting out 10 other modules. All of these are different computers that are talking to each other, and they're all in one truck. Now explain to me how I'm quickly supposed to find out that a brake module is stopping the tailgate from opening. All that testing? 0.3 of an hour. Flat rate is a system that rewards speed, not complexity. Cars are built too complex nowadays to be worked on at speed. You gotta take your time, get it right. The system's outdated. It's time for a change.
You can't get young people to be mechanics because it's not a financially good decision to become a mechanic. It's not worth the effort that you're going to put into it. You got to think that the talent that you're competing for, these guys don't have to work on cars professionally. You can go home and work on cars in your spare time and be perfectly happy with it. Guys whose talent you're competing for, they have a lot of options. They don't have to work on cars. They can go be forklift mechanics or heavy equipment mechanics, or they can work on automation. They can do a lot of shit, man. They don't have to be auto mechanics. If you go work at a dealership, you got to think when you're starting out, you're making less money per hour. You don't have any experience, so you can't get the jobs done in book time. And on top of that, you're spending a load of money on tools on top of the student loan debt that you already have. So why am I going to go work in a dealership that's going to treat me like shit, not give me any training for probably a year or two? Like when I left the automotive world to go work on forklifts, the company I went to work for offered me more hourly than what I was making flat rate at the dealership, plus actual time and a half for anything I worked over 40 hours, plus 401k, plus insurance. It wasn't even a comparison. There's no way that I could say no to that offer. It wasn't even close. So you're going to take a kid out of college and tell him, well, okay, we're going to pay you, what, $18 an hour flat rate until you get your feet wet and you learn some things. Oh, by the way, you got to buy tools. Oh, by the way, we're pretty much going to rip you off on every job you do. And, oh yeah, the warranty jobs, which is half of what you do, you only get paid half time for those. So you got these kids out here working 45 hours a week in a dealership and probably getting paid for 25 or 30. And that's not an uncommon thing. I know exactly how it is. And you know that more than half of these mechanics out here are getting ripped off every day when they go to work. And that's why you can't find anybody to work on cars. If you want to compete, then compete.
I'm in a mood and I want to air out some dirty laundry. I've been a mechanic most of my working life. My career started at a few different shops, a boat shop and independent. I worked for Snap-on for 6 months, which is a whole other story. And then at one point I got a job at a local dealership and I spent 9 years there. I started at what was basically an apprenticeship and worked all the way to full certification. By the time I left, it was anything from brake jobs all the way up to diagnosis and repair of hybrid electric vehicles. Now, periodically, management would have one-on-one meetings with their technicians about productivity. Now, if you don't know how most mechanics get paid, the easiest way to think about it is commission. It's commission. You are paid by work completed, not how many hours you've worked. So let's say you get a water pump job. According to the book, that water pump job pays 3 hours. So you get paid 3 hours, whether that job takes you 3, 6, or 2 hours. Now, a pay period lasts about 2 weeks. You stack jobs on top of jobs. So let's say in a given pay period, you work 90 hours, but you produced 120. You get paid on the 120, not the 90. Ideally, this system would work great and it would be rewarding. The harder you work, the more money you make. It doesn't matter how long you're at the shop, the harder you work, the more hours you make, the more money you make, right? But anybody who's worked at the manufacturer level at a dealership knows that this is not the way it works out. There's a really big problem with modern manufacturers and how they pay for warranty. A lot of times manufacturers pay a lower rate than what a normal customer would pay for, right? So as an example, as a former FCA, Stellantis, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep Tech, whatever you want to call it these days, we sold, I think they still sell them. They were going to discontinue them. I know that for sure, but we sold a small diesel engine called the Eco Diesel. We put it in half-ton trucks and Grand Cherokees and Wranglers for some awful reason. What you need to know is the 3-liter EcoDiesel is a pile of junk. And I've read people say that they love them to death. I've been inside the things. They are garbage. Initially, when this engine hit the sales floor, there was a bugaboo. The 3-liter EcoDiesel is an Italian engine. And initially, when this thing was released, they were using an oil in that engine with a viscosity level that was way too low for it. And from the jump, these things were breaking crankshafts in half. So there was a recall. We basically just did an oil change, put a different viscosity oil in it, and put a different sticker on the oil cap. That was a whole recall, saved the engines, right? Now, at the time, a customer paid labor rate. So it's your car, you're paying for the repair. A customer repair labor rate to pull an EcoDiesel out of a half-ton truck and replace it was about 19 or 20 hours. The manufacturer labor rate, the warranty time, was 9 hours. 9 hours to get the truck rolled into the shop, the cab pulled off of it, the engine pulled out, put back in, the cab put back on top, and that thing running and driving out of the shop in 9 hours. My take as a technician was about 19%. I don't want to get too wishy-washy here, but I had legitimate financial interest into my job at that point. I had spent not as much as many other people, but over the course of my career, you could probably say somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 in tools. By that point, I had spent over a decade honing my craft, becoming a great technician, working very hard, doing great diagnoses. I was the one with the skill. I was the one doing the repairs. And the people sitting at the desks up front printing paper were making more than I was. Fully certified, almost a decade of experience with this dealer, and my take was just 19%. That boss that would tell me that they just want me to make more money, they want to take care of me, they want to take care of my family, there's a really easy way to do that. I can work as hard as I want, and I'm never going to break that 19%. So what about the other 81%? The harder I work, the more money you make. And you're already making more money than I am. So don't give me this bullcrap about how you want to take better care of me. You want to make more money for you. From me.
All right, so there's a nationwide shortage of technicians, automotive technicians, no matter what brand it is. People just don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to show you right now why there's a nationwide shortage of automotive technicians, especially at the dealership level. Let me show you exactly why. So this right here is the labor time for removing an HVAC assembly, the heater box inside the vehicle. We have an evaporator leak and the AC doesn't work. And this is the labor time from, I believe, All Data. I don't know if this thing will ever focus. Right there, All Data pays 13.5 hours. See that? 13.5 hours labor to remove the HVAC assembly. Why don't this thing want to focus? So many of you may not know how technicians get paid. We get paid by the job. If a job pays 2 hours, then we'll get 2 hours no matter how long it takes us to complete that job. Our hourly rate may be $40 an hour. We may get paid $40 an hour, $50 an hour, and we'll only get 2 hours worth of that time to do that job. If it takes us 3 hours, then we'll still get 2 hours for that. So this is the reason, this is exactly the reason why nobody wants to do this anymore.
That's why mechanics call it a pay shortage. The work is there, but flat rate and warranty times can leave technicians absorbing the difference.
What's going on? Today I'm going to talk about Toyota, and yeah, there's probably a quality issue there, but there's really a technician issue there. There always has been. The last few years have probably seen it at the worst it's ever been, and it's just going to keep getting worse, which is possibly better for technicians in the long run, but I really don't think so. So what's happening? So in my neck of the world, Canada, Toyota at the moment has such a backlog on training that they don't have their certified Toyota master techs. And what's happening is, not only is there really no new apprentices coming into the industry, there's a brain drain right now. So as it stands, Toyota is so far behind on training that they're all starting off at the bottom. So let's just say, let's put it into levels 1 to 4. Everybody's at level 1. They have a backlog of 4 years of training, which tells me that there's nobody new coming into the industry, but also tells me that there's not enough master certified techs, and this is how I come to that conclusion. So in my local area, the dealership has lost almost all their master Toyota techs. They got maybe 2 guys left, and that's a brain drain. They probably lost a good 40 years of experience in a matter of a year. That's huge. You cannot replace those numbers in training, and it takes years. It takes years to make a master Toyota tech. So what's going on? So the one guy I work with, I'll tell you what he made to the industry, and Toyota and the dealership owners screw over technicians. So put this scenario in there. The one guy he was pretty much a master tech, left because the Toyota engine recall on the Tundras. The hours were great, and then they continually dropped how much he's making to the point where here in Canada, Ontario, he said they were making 16 hours on this warranty job. At first it was higher, and then they just keep lowering it. So basically, it's Toyota's screw up, but the technicians are paying for it with their wages. And for those who don't know what flat rate is, let's say this engine job pays 16 hours flat rate, and it takes you 20 hours to pay it. You're at $10 an hour. Effectively, you're lowering your wage to make this job complete. And that's warranty in a nutshell, and it's horrible. It's absolute trash. So this one technician, he left because of the recall. He was sick of it. He said it's utter bullshit. Awesome. So what happened is when he left, they had to raise everybody's pay by $5 an hour. They had to raise a lot of experience, and you cannot replace experience. It doesn't matter how many kids you throw at the problem for the shortage, you cannot train experience as fast as they think you can. It takes years to build a master tech, and if there's no master techs, by the way, Toyota says you need to have these qualifications to do these recalls. If there's nobody in the shop doing these recalls, who the hell's doing them? Well, you got to go to another dealership, or they're going to start pulling some really, really bad stuff in the back garage.
This is why Ford can't get anybody to work on their cars. Now last week the Ford CEO came out and said he had no technicians to fix all of his broken cars, and that's why it takes a minimum of 2 weeks to get your car looked at a Ford dealership. Now I already knew this was true because every time I call my local Ford dealer, they tell me they don't even have a transmission tech. And they gotta send every transmission job an hour out of town to the next nearest dealership that has a tech that can do that work. Now the Ford CEO states that there's over 6,000 bays in Ford dealerships without technicians, and they can't find anybody to fill those roles. And his attitude toward the whole situation is that people should be wanting to fill these roles and wanting to do these jobs, and he just couldn't understand why he can't fill them. Well, hold my beer, Jim, and let me tell you why. Now, your Ford vehicles used to be really nice, reliable vehicles that were simple to fix, but now they're all junk, made with Chinese parts, Chinese computers, and stuff that's not even reliable enough to make it over 100,000 miles. We all know the Ford Focus was a complete disaster, and you had to warranty at least half of them that you built. And these Escapes with the 6-speed transmission, they're failing more than ever. Let's face it, Jim, your vehicles are crap, and instead of designing them properly, you just put all the fixes on the back of your mechanics who you don't pay enough. Not only are the vehicles crap, but you gotta buy fancy scanners, special sockets, and special kits that are expensive just to be able to work on them. Now these are the reasons the mechanic shortage is pretty much everywhere in all dealerships, but Ford is one of the worst about gouging their customers and not paying their techs enough.
I had the unfortunate experience of having to purchase a new car right now. By new, I mean used. After 3 long weeks, I'm in this bad boy here. Sales manager at the dealership tried to throw on something very special. A $3,500 warranty. Used car warranty. Really, really special. I told him respectfully, get that shit away from me. I know it's fugazi, because I used to be in your position. I used to work at a dealership very similar to yours. He said, oh, what did you do? Said a little bit of everything, but I also was a mechanic. You were a mechanic? Do you want a job? We literally have no mechanics. And I kept hearing this online that there are no techs working. Come to find out, it's true. There literally are none. And who would have thought that would have happened? Oh, wait. All throughout the 2000s, we shitted on trade schools. We dismantled all the labor unions. We then started telling people who wanted to be technicians that they would be out of a job because robots would replace them. And then better yet, that EV would take over literally everything. So yeah, here we are, 2025, no technicians. And somehow the dealerships do not know that they have to somehow pay them a livable wage. Go figure.
So I'm watching the Ford CEO say, we don't have any mechanics. We can't get anything fixed. You know, it's funny. What do they think is going to happen if they continue to let the economy run the way it's running? To become a mechanic, you got to take up trade school. To take up trade school, you got to go full-time. Even part-time is damn near full-time, but you got to go full-time. You got to take out debt to pay for the trade school. Then you have to have experience, because most places don't want to hire anybody with experience coming fresh out of anything. You know, whatever it is, electricians, construction workers, just general laborers, no one wants to pay. And then you go through all this trouble And if you can find a position, let's say at a Ford dealership, they want to pay a tech $19 an hour, $21 an hour when you're, you know, however much in debt, wherever you're from. Is obviously every trade school is going to have a different, you know, price. But the point is the same. You go through all this effort, you rack up all this debt, because if you can't go to work, you need more debt to survive. If you're not fortunate enough to have, you know, parents or family, you know, if you don't have anyone to help you out, you got to stay somewhere, right? It's a fascinating thing. Mechanics don't want to work. And I know this because I see it everywhere. It doesn't matter what dealership you go to, there are no mechanics. Nobody wants to do these things. Well, excuse me. People want to do these things. They just financially can't.
Your answer is because you charge an insane door rate. Technicians don't take home even a third of that usually. And you make junk vehicles. I mean, and your labor times suck. They're usually less than half of what it takes to do your job.
Yeah. So take into consideration that we have to buy our own freaking tools. That's one. Two, your warranty times are shit. If an engine replacement pays 25 hours under customer pay, and then we go do it under warranty, it's freaking 10 hours. So you're screwing us up. You're supposedly helping out the customer at the cost of the technician's paycheck. So, yes, that's the freaking reason.
Right. That, and on top of overcomplicating simple things that you've had for years that have worked well, you constantly reinvent the wheel, model to model, year to year, making repairs more lengthy and difficult for technicians. That's why everybody's leaving the industry. Pretty simple.
If you guys fix your reasons why there's a shortage of technicians, there wouldn't be a shortage. So this has nothing to do with colors, white or blue. If the pay was fair and everything else that comes with it was fair, then there wouldn't be a shortage on any freaking industry.
And the pipeline keeps shrinking. New technicians face training costs, expensive tools, and entry-level pay that can make other careers look far more reasonable.
Patrick, why don't new trucks last?
So, a lot of different reasons. A big one that I will preach about for a long time, I guess, cylinder deactivation. Seems to cause a lot of issues. You're adding moving parts. GM's been using it for a long time. They call it AFM for active fuel management. Dodge is calling it MDS for multi-displacement. And I think Ford's like VDE for variable displacement engine. They all essentially do the same thing, albeit sometimes in different ways. I guess the most common ones would be GM that we've seen a lot of failures with. They use hydraulically controlled lifters and a solenoid to basically to close the valves on 4 cylinders, and then they cut fuel to those. Well, that sounds like a great idea, and I mean, yeah, you do get a little bit of economy for it, or from it, but those extra moving parts, those lifters fail, and it is not a cheap repair, especially when you start wiping cam lobes and things like that. So that's one big one. Another one is, and this is another thing I think is really emissions driven, but transmissions have been getting more and more and more and more and more complex. So you get into these 8 and 10 speed transmissions, we're seeing failures all over the place. And I'm talking like 50, 60,000 miles on a truck that is used as a grocery getter. That is unacceptable in my opinion. But again, you have all these extra gears, you have all these extra moving parts. There's a lot more going on in there. They're trying to squeeze everything they can out of it. You can only fit so much in a box that's this big. And you can't make the box bigger without making the truck bigger. So that's kind of where I stand with it. But yeah, we see a lot of premature failures on variable displacement. There's cylinder deactivation with engines and transmission failures, just catastrophic internal failures. Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
And we see a lot of failures too out of these half-ton trucks that people just tow light campers, boats, stuff like that with. But early 2000s, everybody was towing with half-tons. Yeah. What changed there?
How many gears are in the transmission? Just shoving more into the same size package. That is the biggest part of it to me. I mean, you can kind of help alleviate that by getting more frequent with fluid flushes and things like that, but they're still just going to keep seeing issues, man. There are too many moving parts in that tiny little box.
So we did a couple videos recently. One was on the fact that we don't work on most older vehicles.
Yep.
And some caveats to that, obviously.
Yeah, we got some pushback on that one, but I think we covered those points.
Got some pushback, but then we did the next video, and It was basically saying this is why we don't recommend why we don't recommend people buying new vehicles.
Yep.
And it was on that.
Like, well, what do we do?
Yeah, and valid comments. Basically
Totally
saying they're not recommending, they're not going to work on the older, they're not going to recommend we buy a newer. What the heck do we do? I think it's valid.
I remember the very first comment on that. That got a lot of likes on. That guy was funny. I can't remember his name now. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it is a problem. It's a problem, right? It's a problem that I live with every single day. Because at some point, even the cars that I've got are going to be like getting to where we can't get parts for them anymore. And what is the answer to that? Well, first of all, when we're talking about new vehicles, we're seeing problems with 23 model vehicles. We're seeing problems with 22s and 21s quite a bit. The 19s, the 18s, the 17s, those are just really, other than a few standouts, right? Some of the Ford engines and stuff like that. But other than those, we're not seeing like extra problems with them. Really the sweet spot to buy a used car at this point, or what we would consider, instead of buying brand new, I would say probably somewhere right now in 2026, between 2010 and 2019. Yeah. I think is a good sweet spot to go in.
And not all of these vehicles are bad. Not all of them, that are new are bad. You know, I mean, I got a 22 Honda Odyssey. It's been good to me so far, you know, but again, we can't cover every single vehicle when we're having these videos. So the refrigerant is an issue. We're seeing a lot of AC issues with the newer vehicles.
Yes.
And that's what we were kind of trying to stress in that video.
And now we've had a couple of heater core issues.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And see, here's the thing with that. Those are expensive repairs. Those are really expensive repairs. So that, to us, it's like, wow, that's crazy that we're having to deal with that in these earlier vehicles, or this late model of a vehicle. And to stress the point on older vehicles, I'm not saying we won't work on them. What I'm saying is we want to make sure that people who are driving those vehicles have the right shop that's going to be able to do the jobs at a price that's in line with the value of the vehicle.
They are literally building these cars so that you throw them away when they break. Literally, just throw them away when they break. Don't replace it, don't fix it, just throw it away. So I'm installing a camera system and I messed up. Somehow I got myself locked. I'm pretty sure I didn't loop the piece all the way through on the handle. So basically the door was shut. I pulled on it really hard. Door opens. But as you can tell, I broke this. Just a little plastic piece, I broke it. I mean, no biggie. I'll look online. Can't find it. I understand it's a newer car. This is 23. I'm like, shoot. Let's call the dealer. So the guy on the phone was like, he spent like 10 minutes. He calls me. He actually had to call me back. Calls me back and says, actually, we can't just get the door handle. I'm like, what do you mean you can't just get the door handle? You have to order the entire door panel. He even said it comes with a new window switch. And then I realized, because I took the dang thing back off, he's not kidding. It is like, they've molded the plastic around it. What the heck? One, I get, like, this should never break, right? But how many times have you replaced a window switch in a car? It gets wet with water. What are you going to tell me? I need a whole new door panel? It's only a cool $525.
Mechanics say they just don't want 8-hour jobs paid like 2, while shop rates rise and their paycheck doesn't. That's a pay shortage.
This goes out to all the people with a new vehicle. How many are you dealing with issues? Because I got a truck last year, it's less than a year old, and it's been in and out of the shop for service on warranty like a bunch of times. I feel like this is a common theme with new vehicles and wanted to get everyone's opinions. This time it's been in service for over a week and I'm beside myself. I don't know what to do. We don't really know what it is. We're going to figure it out. But how is this such a common issue with brand new vehicles? The thing had an issue the first week I owned it. Probably should have been assigned to me. And when I say issue, it's not like, oh, check engine lights on, AC's not working, or electronics or something. It's like a tow to the service department at the dealership. If anybody else is dealing with this stuff, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to hear if this is like common with new vehicles, which I kind of know is, but want to know from you guys.
Mechanics, is pay the real shortage? Drivers, have repair costs or wait times risen in your area? Comment below, like this video, and subscribe.